Chapter 34. The kitchen table had become Vanessa's favorite place to write. The clock said bam, and the house was silent except for the ticking of the old, familiar clock. Tick-tock, tick-tock, she rocked her head from side to side in time. After a while, she got up to make some tea. Yes, she thought, this was what happened to mothers later in life. They became nocturnal creatures. She would always go to bed early with Edward, but then get up at these quietest moments of the night. The perfect time to think. Edward would sometimes join her for a minute or two, but he would tell her that she worked too hard, and she would promise to stop. He knew she wouldn't, and she knew he knew, but this was their script and there was a certain comfort in sticking to it. Now, as she waited for the water to boil, she thought of Teo. It would still be daytime in California. What would he be doing? At least he was safe now. She sighed and returned to the table with her mug of rosehip tea. Everything was laid out, the manuscript, the photographs and Saratu's letter. Shortly after Father's death, Edward had suggested that she read Father's book and try publishing it. She had been reluctant to do so at first, given that her relationship with Father had grown worse over the years. For a long period between Mother's death and Father going into care, she had hardly spoken to him because of his refusal to accept Suleiman as his grandson. She had thought many times of cutting him out of her life, but could never bring herself to do so. Instead, she hid Father's nastiness from Suleiman and visited him in the home as little as possible. When he died, she had wanted to burn all his papers, but Edward coaxed her out of this, forcing her to confront Father's writings which, after much procrastination, she did. She found, as feared, a manuscript full of racist and patronizing comments about Africans, but it also contained many interesting details of the colonial period, and this presented something of a dilemma for Vanessa. While the blatant racism was deplorable, she couldn't deny that their writings were of some historical significance. There were detailed notes on what was accomplished in the course of a district officer's day and descriptions of journeys made on the Oriole. All that was missing was the perspective of their Nigerians who worked with her father. In the end, she had written to friends in Nigeria, hoping that some of his old workers might still be around to give their stories. At first nobody replied, but then she had received the letter from Saratu. Dear Mrs. Barker, praise God that I obtained your letter dated 7th of March, 1997. I am now living in Gindiri, and so the letter took some time to reach. I am happy to hear you are writing about Africa. God bless you. Mama would be very happy too. Now this. I am sorry to inform you that Mama passed away on 5th August. 986. Until her death, she was talking of your mother, who was her favorite dame. She was still angry with the gardener for causing irresponsibility for our mother to leave our country when you were a child. I am hoping that you turn to Nigeria again very soon. I would like to see you. God has blessed me with 6 children. 4 boys. 2 girls. Praise God. The eldest is named Elizabeth, the same as your mother. I am sending you a picture of your mother that Mama used to keep. Also, I am giving you one picture of myself. I am in the maternity ward at St. Teresa Hospital, where you can dispatch future correspondence. Mrs. Saratu Janusio, Mother Teresa Hospital. P.O. Box 16, Gindiri, Nigeria. I wait to hear from you sooner rather than later. God bless you and your family. Vanessa smiled as she placed the letter back in a pile. She would have loved to see Saratu again. She fingered the picture, remembering times when they had played like sisters, climbing trees, running, jumping or playing at being mothers. The photograph was a Polaroid and the colors were faded, but their resemblance was clearly there. Saratu was looking like her mother now, round and short with the same beautiful smile, dressed in the pale blue nurse's uniform, with a wide, navy blue belt and silver buckle. How different their lives had become. Saratu was a competent mother of 6 and, she, the somewhat dubious mother of 1. She put the photograph down and touched the second photo. Graph of mother. Then she picked up the picture of Danjuma and held them side by side. Danjuma's photograph was one that mother had kept in a drawer, along with other pictures from Nigeria. Danjuma was posing in a smart shirt and formal trousers. He stood at an angle, looking across his shoulder at their camera. "Where did you take this picture?" Vanessa murmured. "Did you send it to Mum? And what is this irresponsibility that Saratu speaks of?" As a child, Vanessa had always believed that the reason she and Mother returned to England before father was for her education, but last year when she had broached the topic with Uncle Tony, he had told another story. Something had happened to upset Mother in her second year in Nigeria, but nobody knew quite what. All Uncle Tony knew was that father traveled a lot, leaving Mother behind, and he speculated that father had had an affair. Now another story began to form in Vanessa's mind. What if? She thought and began to scribble on her notepad. June 46, Elizabeth and John marry. March 47, Vanessa born. June 47, set sail for Nigeria. Elizabeth excited to go to Nigeria, first time. Parents alarmed that she's leaving with a young child, but can't dissuade. Elizabeth has always been strong-willed, married men they disapproved of. 1948, difficult year. Elizabeth gets malaria and Vanessa too. Jonathan thinks bad idea to bring wife and daughter to Africa. Elizabeth insists they stay. She loves the sunshine, the outdoors and the friendly nature of the locals. She makes friends at their market, at the clinic, with the house servants. Not as Jonathan expected. Embarrassed that wife befriends locals, ego. 1949-1950, Jonathan tours Mambilla Plateau without Elizabeth and Van. Elizabeth's closest friends, maid, Rose, and gardener, Danjuma. And then it struck Vanessa. What if Danjuma was the man who had told Mother the sticks and sandals story? If so, might there have been some personal significance in him being the one to tell her? Vanessa looked again at the two pictures. She wished she had asked her mother more about life in Nigeria, but she had always felt scared to, fearful that dredging up memories would trigger Mother's depression. But now she wondered if talking about Nigeria might have helped her mother. Danjuma is a young man, 19 or 20 years old. Only a few years younger than Elizabeth. Danjuma is strong and muscular and easygoing by nature. He laughs a lot and teaches Elizabeth all that she wants to know about gardening. He offers to take her around the Joseph Plateau, to show her the water falls and lush forests that she has not seen, and it is on these trips, perhaps, that something starts between them. His youthful spirit and good looks attract her. HC finds her beautiful and he likes the way she makes an effort to speak Hausa and to understand his culture and religion. Soon they are doing things in secret. For months they enjoy each other's company, until Jonathan returns and their secret is discovered. Jonathan refuses to believe that his wife loves a local. servant. He wants Danjuma punished, flogged and imprisoned. Burr Elizabeth tells Jonathan that she will reveal the truth if such a thing is done. And so they compromise. Elizabeth returns to England with young Vanessa, and Jonathan remains in Nigeria. Danjuma is sacked. Then what? Would Danjuma and Mother have corresponded in secret? She simply put together pieces of a story and guessed at the rest. She had replied to Saratu's letter and now she would find Danjuma to ask him his side of the story. She looked at the pictures again and thought of Teo. Mum. Someone shook her shoulders. Mum, why are you crying? I'm sorry, Vanessa sobbed. Mum, you're shaking. What's wrong? It's Granddad's writing, isn't it? Suleiman rested one hand on the table and the other on her shoulder. Yes, Vanessa nodded, thankful for this excuse. Can't you sleep, darling? She asked, sliding her hand over his. She looked up at him and smiled. One was reading but then one heard you crying. He squeezed her shoulder gently. Look Mum, don't let Granddad's stuff get to you. You know what I've been thinking? He let go and walked to the fridge. One day I'll run a sort of literary. Vanessa watched as he poured himself a drink, her grown-up son who was so kind these days. It made her happy to see him excited about ideas and particularly about Africa, which was a passion they now shared. All they had talked about since his return was his business ideas and desire to promote African art by setting up a nuts shop. She and Edward still wanted him to finish university. But Suleiman had inherited some of Sulamat's stubbornness and his mind set. Vanessa looked at the way her son was standing, drumming his fingers, just like Teo, against the fridge. Well, if you're interested in books, you should speak to my friend Teo. You talk a lot about him. Suleiman returned with a glass of water. I always wondered what it might be like to have a black father. And was that a? No, it wasn't a problem, Mum. It was just one of those things I used to think about. I got so tired of everyone always being surprised that my parents were white. So tell me, were you ever in love with Teo? Was he in love with you? You'll have to ask him. You're blushing, Mum. No, I'm not. You are now. Oh Suleiman, you're distracting me. She reached across the table and tapped him playfully across the head. I'm just teasing, Mum. I know you love Dad and all that, but you've always been so passionate about Africa that I reckon you've still got some feelings for your African ex. Yeah? He winked as he left the room. Oh, did you remember to wash my sweater? He asked, popping back. Suleiman. Just checking Mum, just checking.